It was nice to be for John to begin because it's exciting, and my team would be very upset if I didn't remember to tell you that we have a website, which is alexandraturner2020.com. I see a trend, don't I, John? So they're easy, and you can link to our Facebook there as well. So we have began this race at, well, just recently, because as you all know, that Harold Naughton decided not to run and announced in the 11th hour. And I have worked with Harold in the past on other issues, but I worked with him when I was a selectman for many years, and I thought it was an opportune time to continue my work and my civic duty, or I should say commitment. I don't think I know anybody on right now, but just to give you a little background, I grew up in Bolton. I was telling Lisa earlier. Yes, I guess I grew up on a Morgan farm, and instead of going to Disney like all my peers were, my parents used to take us down to Washington to watch the Senate and the House debate, and I really was bitten by the bug. We had some great dining room conversations. I think they were older, but I would consider them hippies of today. And it really made a great impression on me. I went on to school at UMass Amherst, where I studied political science and economics, and I spent time in Washington, working there on advocating for student financial assistance. It was also a really great experience, and working in student government. So throughout life, I have been really engaged. I met my husband in Boston, and we moved out here. And I took him to his first town meeting, which was which was eye-opening. He's a big city boy, so he wasn't used to our forms of government. But we decided that if we were going to stay in this region, that we wanted to help participate and shape the region. And we love Lancaster. We love the region. We've been here 25 years. I grew up picking strawberries in Berlin, and practically grew up at the Ewing's house across the street, the little pink house from Indian Head. So I'm really familiar with Berlin and a lot of the great people that you have there. I admire how you have been able to maintain an excellent quality of life for your people and balance your commercial development with the malls on either side of the community. It shows a lot of initiative and a lot of great planning on your part, because hopefully they will help support your tax base. And I know that one of the greatest things that we struggle with, and I struggled with in my roles in town government, was great ideas, but how to keep with a heavy reliance on property tax, how to keep people in their homes, affording their taxes, and still provide them with the services that they so vitally need. So with that in mind, I thought, well, the next logical progression was to run for this. I am currently a public employee. I work as the Council on Aging Director and the Community Center Director for Lancaster. It's given me an interesting perspective on services and that. And in the interim between my time serving, I have worked in the private sector. So I have a pretty broad base and a long time commitment. I have served on the Conservation Commission. I helped found our land trust. I think served in just about every role. I'm on the Memorial Day committee, and we got off easy this year. So it's a really strange time. One of the reasons that I was drawn to run now is not only because Harold decided not to run, but because I realized that this is a very critical time in Massachusetts and the Commonwealth and the nation. COVID, it was a difficult time, I think, before the coronavirus pandemic, but the pandemic has as we all know, decimate. Not only has it, first and foremost, has it really affected a lot of people who are sick, ill, and passed away. My heart goes out to them, and I know Berlin has had their share of cases, but it's also decimated the Commonwealth's finances. And I think we've made some great investments. I'm pleased with the governor's partnership with Partners in Health and the tracing. And I think that hopefully we come out of this better equipped for future pandemics, which are likely to happen. But in the meantime, we're going to have to figure out how to recover from the financial blows. And I think it's going to really require somebody somebody who's worked in developed budgets, worked in both with the state and the federal governments and legislatures, as somebody who has a lot of experience. This is a time for good government, and I believe a good, strong government. I believe that my experience will go a long way to help lead us there. If you get a chance to look at that website, alexandraturner2020.com, I sort of sketched out, tried to narrow it down to 4 cornerstones or areas of concentration of things that I thought really affected this district more than others to focus on. Affordable housing is a big one. In my role as the COA director and the community center, we spend a lot of time trying to make sure that people can stay in their homes to age in place, or if they can't, that they have some other good, affordable option to be able to stay close to their families. And as you probably know, 40B is the law of the land right now, which is a state law meant to encourage affordable housing. But it's been my experience that it's not very effective. It pits developers against the town. It overrides the zoning. And worse, it does not actually create what we really need is truly affordable housing. Depending on your region, you're in the same region we are as far as that, the prices of the affordable units are higher than most people can afford. A 2-bedroom apartment is around $1,800. What I think there's a real need for is low-income housing that people can really afford, or a sliding scale housing. And I look forward to coming out. There's been a lot of reforms proposed to 40B, 40R, 40S, and so on. And I think that the town needs to conquer that. The district and the state, the Commonwealth, need to really look at that in depth. Another cornerstone is seniors, keeping a diverse culturally and a wide age span communities and district. This district boasts, and Berlin is boasts wonderful schools. And I know Berlin is extremely attractive because of your proximity to highways and because of your great schools and your great lifestyle. So it's very, very attractive to young families who are working and can afford more homes, and it should be. That should be encouraged. But we should also try to keep some diversity, try to keep seniors in the district. They provide a lot of volunteers. They provide a wealth of knowledge, and they balance the tax base. So for that and for many other roles, it's the humane thing to do. I think we need to develop some strategies to help offset the heavy reliance on property tax. It's a regressive tax, and it affects those on fixed incomes more than any others. So we need to work on that. One of the things that I like best about Berlin is your preservation. I know you are a right to farm community, and you have some beautiful farms. I think the state needs to do more to encourage and for the APR continue working on other programs there. And I have experience with that land preservation, not only with my work on the land trust. I also sit on the what's called NSN, Nissawasset Federal Council. We're stewards of the rivers, which were recently designated wild and scenic rivers. And that's a great model for other areas within the district. We do have a unique topography and geography, which needs to be preserved. And I guess the last cornerstone of the four is I would like to see the state do more about preserving infrastructure and maintaining what we have. There's a wealth of beautiful buildings. I think my favorite example in the district is 19 Carter. And you talk about a gorgeous property that I used to drive by and drool and say, oh, someday I want to live there. But it's
beautiful.
Isn't it gorgeous? And I've been in there many a time. I sit on the Neshoba, I work with the Neshoba Neighbors Group, which is a great group of people from Berlin and Bolton who are trying to do a private nonprofit to help seniors. But we sometimes meet there, and it's just the most warm, welcoming, great place. I know that one of the great trends, what's old is new again, is to make walkable downtown communities, what I call village zoning, and some planners call village zoning. I think the district could benefit from support for village zoning and more incentives. I know that Berlin has looked at improving sidewalks. There's the Complete Streets Grant, which needs to be continued to be funded, and traffic calming, because with your proximity between 495 and as a feeder right down through the center of town, I'm sure the road's going to continue just to get busier as people cut through. And so those are the kind of initiatives that the town needs to do, the Commonwealth needs to do for the towns and the district, because we're united by some wonderful town centers that the roads have, as the suburbs grow, the roads and the environment have sort of outgrown the town centers, and we need to return town centers to what they initially were, centers of arts, culture, life. And with your library and 19 Carter, in fact, I know this is off script, but this lovely shirt was at the thrift store right there in Berlin, one of my favorite spots. So it's just a great treasure, and I think that we need to really work to encourage better use of old buildings like that, and rehabbing buildings, as well as, of course, supporting. I know you have a relatively new school, but with space needs, we need to try to look at reusing old schools, old buildings, and continuing to maintain roads rather than letting things fall into disrepair and tear them down and build anew. I don't think it's sustainable environmentally or fiscally. So I'm hoping, I know I feel like one of those fast talkers on the commercials, but I wanted to get everything in. I'm hoping that you all will reach out and ask me about any more specifics, talk to me or ask questions now. I hope you look at my website and Facebook, and I would love to earn your support come September 1st. We have 3 good women who are vying for this position, and I know that both Meg and Jaylon will be with you tonight. And let's see, is there anything else? I'm sure there's something, but it's all swirling around in my brain. So is there anything that I can answer for you? And before I forget it, please, thank you so much for the opportunity for allowing me to participate tonight.
Welcome. Can you go ahead and raise your hand if you have a question for Jaylon? Or sorry, you just said Jaylon, for Alex. Apologies.
That's okay.
Can you go ahead and raise your hand if you have a question. Yeah,
no, but thank you for your beautiful presentation.
Yes.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
And I love the shirt, by the way.
Well, thank you. And I was going to say, and yours too. I need those. Of course, I'll probably substitute. The name's just fine.
Piper, you had a question?
Yeah. So you talked about a lot of sort of smaller everyday stuff, which is wonderful. But how would you address some of the larger issues that are going on right now? Just to take one, um, the events in Minnesota and the need for greater racial justice here in Massachusetts. There's a lot of things that you do on the state level that don't necessarily impact the district directly, but need to be done. So what are your thoughts on, say, climate change, racial justice, the Transparency Act?
Well, I did sign the Transparency Act, and I think, I think all the challengers did. And I think you're right, Piper, that on a larger scale, I was trying to focus, there is a balance. And I'm proud that that the Commonwealth has led the way on many important issues, such as gay marriage, where we led the way and it's become a national model. As far as climate change, Minnesota is the most, well, climate change, I think we need to do a lot to start legislating some extremely tight regulations, and continue our incentives for energy that the Commonwealth has already led the way on. As far as Minnesota goes, I think everybody is just universally challenged about the horrors, and I think of Mr. Floyd's murder, and I think that we could take this opportunity to start looking at legislating some more restrictions, demilitarizing the police. I think police cams could be mandatory in the Commonwealth. There's been a lot of resistance, I understand, through unions, but we phase it in through progression. There's something, and bargaining, and of course has to be done well. Talking about policies around different things like chokeholds and so on are also extremely important. So I think that there is a lot that can be done on the state level to help support police departments, but also to address the violence that should never have occurred. As far as climate change goes, we're particularly vulnerable with our coastal areas, our riverfronts, and topography. We need to work with consortiums to try to, as I said, to incentivize alternative energies, better transportation, the last mile connect, where we, for example, a lot of people out here in Berlin and Boylston and so on who are commuting, and because of the poor public transportation, they continue to drive to their jobs. Now, I'm not sure in the new normal if that will continue as much. I think that's one of the silver linings of this crisis. But I do think that it's something that we need to fund to improve public transportation and take cars off the road as well. I know you mentioned other concerns.
Yeah, I just wanted to see where you were at on some of the larger issues. Thank you.
I do think that the Commonwealth is uniquely poised to lead the world, yes, but the nation, as we have in others, but without forgetting about the focus on the district as well. So thank you.
Does anybody else have a question right now? Okay, I guess one thing that you hadn't addressed was healthcare. The Commonwealth, we're all struggling with healthcare, but the Commonwealth, the communities that is a huge part of our budget right now, that eats up a lot of our taxes. Any thoughts on where we go with healthcare?
It is. I believe in a single payer system. I think Mass Health, which serves as a model for the nation right now, for the Affordable Care Act, to be effective, I think we should continue towards a single payer system. I think it would make it more feasible and financial. I do support, obviously, Mass Health. In my day job, I've seen the benefits, particularly for seniors and low-income people. who were were, were very adversely affected before we had, before we had a stronger healthcare system. But we have a long way to go to improve it.
Anybody else? Because I made a list in case we had a pause here.
I just had a quick question. I spent, aside from being a Democratic State Committee member, I've spent most of my life helping folks in the mental health area, people with developmental disabilities, and then within the criminal justice system. So I've taken a close look at some of the societal violence that's taken place within our systems. I was wondering, what are your thoughts as what would you advocate for as state representative as far as criminal justice reform and those related issues?
Well, our incarceration rates are much higher, as you know, than they should be nowadays. People who are getting sectioned oftentimes with a lack of beds for recovery are going right into our jail systems, which is not the place or the best way to treat anything. You've hit a subject which is near and dear to my heart. My sister has a dual diagnosis. She's COVID positive right now, and I'm watching the way that the state is not handling it well. So I think we need major reforms. If I am elected, that's something that I would would consider a cornerstone. It's not. I would love to see the prisoners return to have a vote, get their votes. It's just there's so many ideas that I have about that, but I think that I don't think that we are a model community that we used to be for either developmental delays or the mental health system, and we need to do a lot of work on that.
All right. If there isn't anything else that you'd like to add, we'll start wrapping up and move on to the next candidate. Thank you so much for attending. We appreciate you speaking with us and hope to see you a lot more during the campaign season.
Thank you. This is my first time through, and I feel a little rusty, but I really I do appreciate the opportunity. Thank you so much for allowing me to